we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is about the landfills, how to become a zero landfill country, India. Though the topic is a little misleading because in India we do not have landfills, we have waste mountains. So any side you go to Delhi, you will see a very large mountain, and you think probably that is a place to go for trekking or you do something, and then you realize no, it is a waste mountain. And these waste mountains keep on coming, a very very high frequency, right? So they used to be in Gazipur. I think government is going to solve that, but now we have a much bigger one on a Gurgaon to Faridabad road, and then you keep on appearing, keep on chasing this problem, and as Cyrus has been telling that it is the production is coming like what we needed is 10 times more. So today we are going to discuss. With me I have a very interesting panel. I have Mahesh, who has seen, tutored multiple times, and I have Pratibha. She is the founder of team of Lucro, and Lucro is a company which has raised money from Circulate Capital, where they are trying to address one of the toughest problems, right? And see how that can be solved. So, Mahesh, probably just if you give a little bit of introduction of yours, and then.
Thank you, Shailesh. My name is Mahesh Babu. We have executed several large waste management projects in Delhi itself. As you know, Delhi has three large, as he mentioned, landfills, but they're actually dump sites because there's no scientific lining, there's no capture of gas, there's no capture of leachate. So in some sense, it's a misnomer to call them landfills. One should really call them dump sites. And this is a phenomena across the country. We generate about 70 million tons of solid waste in this country. And unfortunately, most of it ends up in dump sites, whether it's in Bangalore or Chennai or Bombay, Mumbai, or even Delhi. And it's not for the want of money as such. It's also, a lot of it is also the political will to tackle it. Mumbai, for instance, has something like 60,000 crores sitting in a bank account. 60,000 crores is the amount of money which the Mumbai municipality has. But yet, at the end of the day, we are unable to even get simple things organized on the ground in terms of waste management. So it's really a challenge in that sense. But I don't want to delve into the negativities of this sector because I think all of you know the problems. I'd like to highlight a positive management problem which we undertook. Can I spend about 2 minutes?
Yeah, sure. Please. No.
In 2010, Delhi was in the midst of a crisis because we had the Commonwealth Games which were on. And at that point in time, the city was generating about 3,000 tons of construction and demolition waste. And I was called to by the then Chief Secretary of Delhi, a gentleman called Rakesh Mehta, an extremely committed bureaucrat, who told me that you need to find a way to help the city. To take Mita's point of being bold, I knew nothing about construction and demolition waste at that point in time. We set up India's first construction and demolition waste management plant in a place called Burari. It is in North Delhi. And it started something in this country in terms of ensuring that the waste that we were getting every day actually got processed. From there, we built that particular sector and industry. And today, the facilities that we built have processed 6 million tons. That's what Eric who was here earlier, was saying in terms of scale. 6 million tons of construction and demolition waste, which would have otherwise ended up either in the Ridge or in the Yamuna or in the water bodies of this city. So what I'm trying to say is, in this sector at least, what I've learned is, you have to go out and do, and you have to go out and show what can be done in our country with our waste, with all our problems, including what was discussed, the fact that we don't have segregation, the fact that we have waste ending up all over the place. And based on what was done in that construction demolition space, the regulations related to construction and demolition waste came up in 2015. The point I'm again making is we are an over-legislated country. We have n number of legislations, whether it's the plastic waste management rules, whether it's the e-waste management rules, whether it is the municipal waste management rules, biomedical waste, you name it. We have every form of legislation possible. The unfortunate thing is we just are not in a position to implement. And that is where I think we need to put up facilities that actually start. It does not matter. They can be small initiatives, they can be big initiatives. It's not necessary that it has to be centralized. I think I was discussing this with Sumit yesterday. They could be decentralized, they could be centralized. The idea is really to get out there and start and do something, and then you can see progress happening. And today I'm very happy to say that every city, based on that facility that we set up in Burari, all the 53 metros with more than 1 million cities want to set up C&D based facilities, based on that early experience, which happened in a sense partially because I think there was a sense of trust in what we call public-private partnerships. That happened in this particular case, and then it sort of evolved its own, it went on its own life path and life cycle. So that was one aspect that I wanted to highlight. The other problem in terms of dump sites, yes, we have dump sites everywhere. We have told the government many times that what can be done to remove those dump sites. But unfortunately, there has been no action that has been taken in terms of removing dump sites. We did a project in Mumbai, in in a place called Borivali. It was a dump right next to the ocean, which was about, at that point in time, they said was anywhere between 3 to 5 million tons of waste, something to that number, which was there which was already being dumped there. We went to the Ministry of Environment. It's a very interesting story, and told them that we are willing to design the capping of that dump site. And the first thing the director, who happened to be in the Ministry of Environment, told us at that point in time was, Mr. Babu, you can't do that because this is CRZ1 land. And CRZ1 land stands for Coastal Regulation Zone 1 land, which is the most pure form of environmentally protected land. The secretary at that point in time, who happened to be sitting in that same meeting of environment, asked his director, you're willing to let people dump waste there. Somebody is coming up with an option of capping it scientifically. It's not like you can use that land again because it's Coastal Regulation Zone 1 land. And you're going to tell him that he can't do it. So he looked at me and said, Mahesh, this is saying in English, don't ask, don't tell. You haven't told me, you haven't asked me, I haven't told you, just go and do it. It was done. We designed it, it was implemented by a company called UPL as well. And it became one of the 10 best urban rejuvenation projects in the world, in urban rejuvenation. The mangroves came back, people opened their windows for the first time after 20 years. The flora and fauna of that whole area changed, and it made such a transformational difference to the people who were there. And I'm very sure that I would not have been allowed to do it, but for the fact that that particular gentleman took the decision to say that they would allow it. So there are a lot of positive stories also in this space. Sometimes I think they don't get enough attention or are not sufficiently highlighted. Yes.
I'm sorry. So thanks. I think Pratibha probably just give us a little bit brief about what you do.
So I'll just set a little bit of a base that I think Indians consume about 6 million metric tons of packaging every year, and flexible plastic waste makes about 25% of that total, which comes to about 2.3 roughly million metric tons per year. And that is the material that we use as our raw material essentially to make our final products, to recycle and make our final products out of. And that is the product the waste that would have normally ended up in the landfills, which is how we are avoiding that.
So I think coming to this point again, I'm going back on the segregation, on the waste mountains or dump fields, right? What is exactly the reason? Is the segregation the issue, or the technology is the issue, or over-regulation is the issue? Where are we right now?
Shailesh, it's a combination of different factors. First of all, most of these dumps that are there, let's say Gazipur, has been there since 1984. So we have spent something like 4 or 5 decades accumulating waste there. Municipal budgets, 80% of all municipal budgets go towards collection and transportation. It's a well-greased system. It works reasonably well. The corporators are happy. The standing committee politicians are happy. The system is there. It leaves just about 10 to 15% of municipal budgets, which basically are allocated for actually processing waste.
So you have say, so it's understaffed, underbudgeted, underfunded.
It is not taken care of at all. It's in our business. It's what we call, Shailesh, the NIMBY syndrome. You take it out of my bloody backyard.
Okay.
After that,
Not
what
my
happens?
backyard,
After that, what happens to the waste is not my problem. It's somebody else's problem.
I think it's also the point where people don't realize the value that that particular waste can have. So, like example, what I was talking about flexible plastic waste.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't tend to understand the value that it can create again.
So the point is, Pratibha, what he's saying, that's not in my backyard problem getting deployed, right? You are saying that the people should collect, but your company, your startup, when it's coming to play, what you want it to be done? You want the waste to be segregated by yourself or by the people, or you say it's not funded. So where you are struggling, or you're not struggling at all?
No, I think very basic, back to what Neeta had actually said, that there needs to be a basic level of dry and wet, and beyond that, I think companies can handle.
So you say technology-wise we are good. If just a basic level of wet and dry waste is done, you can do that. But now when the problem comes, who's going to fund you? So you say the waste has so much value that we don't need any funding. Okay, you are VC funded right now, and VC
So I do,
well.
I do understand that a lot of recyclers might face the problem where they're not profitable enough. But speaking for ourselves only, we are very clear on the path that if you are not an economically sustainable company, you cannot be sustainable in the long run. So we always make sure that whatever we do is very well integrated, so that we are able to derive that sort of economic benefit from it.
Okay, I just come on this. So I keep on thinking about this, and the government of India has a very big campaign on waste to wealth, right? Kachar is a kanchan, to use in the Hindi word. Kanchan is gold. So they say waste can generate gold, right? Do you think it's a very misplaced campaign? That because suddenly people think that, oh, I need not invest, municipality need not invest, right? It's not in my backyard, and that's why no capacity is being built. Because no capacity is being built, then those mountains are happening. Right. Because everybody believes that you can make money from the waste. Is that true, or
no? It's not as simple as that, Shailesh, in the sense that the government can only do so much. As I mentioned to you, half our municipalities don't have money to pay their workers, their doctors, their teachers.
Sure.
There's very little money left for actual recycling or processing of waste. So that's where I think industry needs to step in. That's the only way it's going to actually happen.
But how industry should step in through CSR, or industry should step in? Then who will pay them? Industry.
Let industry actually step in, even if they want through CSR. If a cement company, we have 203 cement companies in this country, right? You're talking of how much? They make some 350 million tons of cement. Just imagine if you could even replace 5% of that, of the fuel which they use, with non-recyclable single-use plastic. It will greatly help Cyril's campaign. It will take care of a significant portion. This is organized industry. And they did a calculation. The cost, the incremental cost of a cement bag for taking care of feed mechanisms for each and every cement plant. Take a guess, how much is it? If a bag is today worth, let us say, 450 rupees, how much does it cost to have feed systems for non-recyclable plastic in a cement plant across the country? Each cement bag goes up by 1 rupee. In a 450 rupee.
But I think here, Dr. Costa is there, and he runs certain alternatives. I think they might probably, I will tell that on his behalf. Dealing with cement companies, right? Cement companies have made plastic problem as their business, case, because they believe there's so much CSR money is coming in. So why should we not make money out of it? Is it not a public forum? Probably I can share that. All cement companies, not only I will just tell you this background. It's very interesting. So the plastic waste, municipality plastic waste, is a very win-win for the plastic cement company, because the environment is very alkaline. It adds the thing, so they need not even buy the clinker, because that come from the what you call wet waste, everything else, and everything happens around 13 degrees centigrade, so they need not anything. And for them, it replaces the fuel cost, which is very, very expensive, right? So what the cement company does? Cement company asks every NGO to pay them money to bring the plastic. Why? Because there is a business model. Because they know that there are enough CSR companies, there are enough PNGs of the world, Coca of the world, who have the gun on their head by the government that you pay this money. So they're paying that money, and the cement company want that money to themselves. So while they are saving money on their side, on the fuel anyway, but still they are trying to collect, more cash. So how do you solve this kind of scenarios? Because
It's tough to solve, Shailesh. It will come with, there's a greater perception of the fact that you have to do something environmentally friendly going forward. If anything, this time is right. As was mentioned earlier, everybody is getting hit by the climate crisis. You have to make a difference. If they can replace their fossil fuel, 60% of all cement fuel is basically coal, or is even worse, is some form of pet coke, which is, even worse in terms of its environmental and its global gas, impact. So you need to see how they also will move. This is not going to be a problem that is going to be resolved by one. It has to, everybody, whether it's the cement industry, whether it's the thermal power plants, everybody has to step in. Otherwise it won't happen. Otherwise the best becomes the enemy of the good.
yeah.
And municipalities are not going to have that kind of money.
So Pratibha, coming to you, so you're running Lucro, right? So let's say if you see a household in India, so what kind of plastic a household generates in a month or say a year?
I think on an average, each Indian consumes about 8.6 kgs of packaging, I
Every
think,
year?
out of which
Month?
every year.
Okay.
Every year.
So out of the 8.6 kg of packaging which comes, how much you can handle?
How much can we handle?
Now, I will say in the technology wise, so there are multiple layer kind of plastics, right? There is a multi-layer plastic, LDP, HDP. So there's some high value with the right spec, right? But I think all our cities are littered with what you call the low value plastic, right? How much of low value plastic you can handle?
So we handle, I think majority of what we handle is LDPE, which is again low value. It's something like a punny that you see.
Correct, white one.
Yes,
that
extremely
thin
low
one.
value,
Okay.
which waste pickers normally tend not to pick up. And because even if they do pick up, they get about, I think, 12 rupees or 15 rupees per kg for it.
I think
And
that's
the
much
amount
less,
of
right,
quantity
yeah.
that they have to pick up to make it even 1 kg,
Is 1
it's
day.
huge. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
for 1 day you get around 20 cents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why we work on a model where at least the waste pickers who we work with, who are in our vicinity, we tend to pay them a slightly higher amount than what they would have gotten for that product elsewhere, because since we're the only ones using that to recycle.
So what do you do that with that plastic?
We recycle it and we make it into new packaging, which is secondary packaging for companies, bundling layers, shrink wraps, textile packaging.
And what is the margin jump there?
What is the, what is the
I'm
margin
asking
jump?
this point.
So I'll tell you. I think mostly the reason a lot of brands do not adopt recycled packaging is because it tends to be higher than virgin.
Okay.
But ours, we tend to peg it against virgin, so we're either at par or we're lower.
Okay. So the point why I'm asking this question is, if this technology is there, right, and enough regulation, everything is there, do you think that the plastic problem will solve? It will just everything will become
So
recyclable
actually,
or no?
new rules have come in recently. There's been EPR guidelines that have made it compulsory.
As I said, India is most of the regulated country.
I do agree,
And
but
that's
I
why
think
we
this
don't
is the
follow
first
it.
time they have made it compulsory for brands to use recycled material as well, besides just being part of recycling. And we're hoping that that's something that makes people, get used to a little bit more of recycled products.
So the point is, like say you use that punny, you use this bicycle. So how many times you can use before it has to go to a what you call dump site?
So I think at least 6 to 7 cycles you can get out of it.
After that,
After that, I guess there'll be a little bit amount of downcycling as well, because right now what you're doing is when you convert plastic into plastic again, you're upcycling it. There will be some amount of downcycling it as well. So you'll probably make some panels out of it. You'll probably make cement bricks out of it, or some other products as well. But yeah.
Okay, but is there any kind of plastic which cannot be recycled? What kind of percentage is that?
MLP
So MLP, but MLP can be recycled, no?
can be recycled, but you can only downcycle it. You cannot do anything to upcycle
Any
it.
plastic fuel?
I guess you can do that as well, but there's obviously a lot of question marks around plastic to fuel, what kind of carbon emission that fuel is going to have. So
On a fuel, I think you have run fuel plant, right? Waste to fuel?
Waste to energy.
Waste to energy, yeah. So I think when we talk about the waste to energy, I think waste to energy obviously come as a big panacea for everything. What is your view on the waste to energy kind of thing?
See, it's a centralized solution, you know, and as you rightly mentioned, once you take away the biodegradable waste, the combustibles have to find a place, whether you like it or not. Some of it is what you're doing in terms of recycling, and some of it is multi-layer plastic and single-use plastic, and you know, there's paper, there is dry woody mass. All that has to be taken care of if you want a comprehensive solution, because otherwise it will go to that same landfill and dump site. So one thing that we realized very early on was that in Europe, for instance, when you get a ton of waste which comes to your land site, you get anywhere between 35 to 50 euros
Okay.
for every ton of waste that we get. In our case, for instance, we were getting 0.
Why?
That's the way the municipal system in this country is. They just, can you imagine a municipality paying $100 for every ton of waste, Shailesh? Can you imagine? I mean, you're talking of 70 million tons.
So I think that's why it's
So it's not going to get sorted out. What we did was we went to Mr. Girish Pradhan, who was then the CERC chairman,
Okay.
and told him, I still remember, meeting took place in India International Center over some fig and honey ice cream, and he told us, and we requested him, and he told us, I started this whole thing about waste management, and he told me, you're preaching to the converted. I used to be the municipal commissioner for Pune
Okay.
at that point, earlier, in one of his earlier avatars. And he immediately, there and then, that was a decision that was taken in that place, was they gave us a preferential tariff of 7 rupees 90.
Okay, that's it.
So we got a preferential tariff. Now some people in the system would say that, look, it's not, you know, allocating the cost at the right place. I still remember having this discussion with, Montek Singh Ahluwalia's, one of his officers at that point in time, who said that no, urban pollution should be taken care of only by the municipality, and you're cross-subsidizing in some sense. So my point to things like that, Shailesh, is you've got to get something done.
Correct.
You know, you can aim for perfection,
Yeah.
but then, you know, you'll never get anything done on the ground. That facility has processed 15 lakh tons of waste
Wow.
and has generated 150 million units of green electricity.
Wow.
And they would not, I'm pretty sure that if we did not get that 7 rupee 90 tariff, we would not have been able to do it, because the municipalities again would not have been able to pay for it.
790 is good enough.
It's a good start, Shailesh. You again,
No.
I would love to have 15, I would love to have 12 rupees
No,
per
I'm saying what
kilowatt.
is the lowest that can go? If like say 790, a lot of society in Delhi alone, I think pay 15 rupee, for diesel generator, right?
Exactly.
So if you can get a 790 and there's maximum.
But I had a
90,
big
also
struggle to even get that 790.
Yeah.
I had to move heaven and earth to make it happen.
Because the discoms are bankrupt, right?
One, the discoms will not permit it. Secondly, there are people within the government itself who had a different point of view. They were saying it's a municipal problem. Why the hell should the power sector pay for it? So there are wheels within wheels. But you know, the fact that they gave it, and the fact that 2-3 power plants came up, which have consumed so much of waste, it's a great beginning. So you make your incremental steps. You don't go, and try and do the marathon. You just do sprints, and you get there. You get there in due course. But it takes a lot of time, and it takes everybody's effort, starting with the rag picker to all of us who do not segregate waste, as Meeta was saying. You know, it's so difficult. In South Delhi, we ran a collection operation. In South Delhi, probably the highest per capita incomes in the world. Forget India. There's so many people there who would, fit into any advanced society. It's so difficult to get them to do what Meeta said, that simple thing. Wet and dry. They say, no, हम करते हैं. वो जो आके उठाता है, वो फिर से मिला देता है. तो फायदा क्या है उसका करने?
Or they say you don't know who I am, right?
That is
The
a,
lights.
that is a Delhi, that is a Delhi, what do you call it, a very Delhi thing, yeah.
No, but I agree with you because that is often what happens as well. The person who comes to your house to pick the waste up is going to end up collecting everything together and dumping it together. So
Very true, exactly, it defeats the very purpose, you know.
So,
No.
I think I think Pratibha, I have two more questions I'll ask. So Pratibha, let's say when you come on this whole waste side, right? Do you think you can scale to say unlimited, or there are some challenges you are facing?
there is obviously a little bit of infrastructure challenges that you do face when you want to expand a bit, but that is where companies like Circular Capital come in, where they help you with that.
Yeah, that's the money
expansion.
side. But I'm saying the demand side. Like say if there's unlimited money, suppose say
That
I'm a
is,
billionaire
that
fund,
is
right?
where policy comes in. What you were talking about, that policies have always been there, but there has never been a policy which makes it compulsory for brands to use that recycled material.
Okay, so you want, so that's where you said there's demand challenge. If that enough what you call awareness is not there, then
Absolutely.
probably Cyril will come in and say, okay, this is the brand, and then create
Absolutely.
it.
It's
right?
only when you make it compulsory for the brand to adopt something is when they're going to do it.
Now, just one last question to you. Actually, if there's a perfect world, which is never it is, so how will you design a city that we do not ever have a landfill? Is the segregation the main key, or the pricing? Where is the buck stops?
I think if you can segregate to start with, that would make a big difference. Then ensure that whatever is recyclable, those go to recyclable possibilities. The construction and demolition waste you reconvert into useful products. The biodegradable waste, Dr. Rajiv Kumar was mentioning, composting or biomethanization. Again, a huge requirement. It's a real win-win. Many of these things, Salesh, are win-wins. You know, if you can convert it into good quality fertilizer, you're taking care to a certain extent of the problem of excess chemical fertilizer,
correct,
which
correct.
finds its way into all our water bodies. And you know,
So
and you
segregation
can
will
do,
take 70% of problem.
you can, segregation would be a definite help. And then the fact that you need to incentivize all these activities which lead to recycling, whether it is in construction waste or whether it's in combustible waste or whether it's in biodegradable waste. And that push has to come, otherwise we will be only nibbling at the corners of this problem. If you want to take it to scale, you know, as Eric had mentioned, you have to look at industry, see whether they can play a role. They have to play a role. And that's the way, you know, you're talking of how much, some 42, I forget these numbers always scare me, some trillions of dollars of ESG money.
Yeah, that is
It's
the-
time that ESG money is put to use for something so basic, which prevents plastic from getting onto our beaches.
Yeah. So I think thanks a lot. We are running out of time. Any questions anybody has, or we are good? Are we sleeping? So,
Are there any norms for, say, FMCG companies? Are there any norms today as to what percentage of the packaging that they use needs to be from recycled plastic?
Yes. The
There
new
are-
norms just came on the 6th of October, so they're really fresh. And the norms probably start from about 23, 24, 2023, 2024, and they have certain defined sort of for flexible, I think it's about 15%, and then for rigid it's about 20% to
Isn't
start
that a
with.
game changer for somebody like you?
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's about actually how you get the inputs you are using. You're recycling, you drive figures, but actually you're more about your incentives, your prices, and your quality demands to them.
So we do tend to say that if it's cleaned a little bit, they will get a higher price for it, which is as basic as you have a milk packet, just run it under water a bit, and then get it to us. You might end up getting 2 rupees per kg extra for something like that. So yeah, we do have certain defined parameters there. But even beyond that, we do tend to give them a little more because we have eliminated a lot of middlemen that waste would have exchanged hands through. So.
How many suppliers do you have?
I think we have at least 50 plus aggregators that we are working with. There are 100 plus waste pickers that we are working with.
How are you paying the waste pickers?
Completely
Who is
digital.
Who's paying the waste pickers? The aggregators are paying the waste pickers, or
So-
you pay them directly?
Places where we have our own collection centers, we do work directly with waste pickers, but obviously places where we do not have our own collection centers, we would do work with a lot of aggregators as well.
You tried the collection?
Absolutely not.
How do you how do you make sure?
Well, we have developed our own technology as well, in which we make sure that every waste picker or every aggregator that comes into us is very sort of clearly defined in the system. All his details are taken, you know, their Aadhaar card, bank card details are taken, their age groups, education qualification, everything sort of really well recorded in there.
How do you know that these guys that are so well registered with you are really the ones that are picking?
I mean, that is a good question, but at least the people that we work with directly, we tend to have really good relationships with. It's people that we have worked with for a really long time. There are people that we have held our own seminars for within that city, so we do tend to sort of recognize them. Obviously, it will probably be a challenge if there's a new collection center that we're opening up in a new place, but hopefully over a period of time, that's something that we would have eliminated or, you know, sort
Are
of.
you doing audits?
Yes, absolutely.
Shailesh, I have a question.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
Amit.
So, we talked about construction and demolition waste, we talked about plastic waste. Are there other category of waste which are also bothering us, such as digital waste? The other waste I want to talk and want to know about is the photovoltaic panels, which with so much focus on renewable energy, while we are saving the environment through one means, is that not a waste handling, or is that not a new category of waste which we are creating for the future? What are the plans about it?
So I think
It is absolutely.
tough question. Huh?
But I think, you know, the probably one can look at it, I don't mean to kick the can down the road, but many of these panels will probably reach the end of life in another 10 years probably, because most of the solar panels installations have been recent. So probably, as you rightly mentioned, within 10 years, one has to ensure that there are solutions. Either the solar module manufacturers themselves take care of the panels which they produce, or the government has to figure out something to ensure. Otherwise, that would become a huge problem.
Yeah. So the idea of why I asked this question is, can we think about a solution to that particular problem right when we are about to create it? Because that's where we are talking about lead coming out of the panels.
E-waste ecosystem. So I think let me pitch it. So there's a company like Atero, they are doing it very well. So we have just, I think we're doing a great company probably that will solve the way the lead is handled all over the world. If that succeeds, I think that's fairly advanced. So a lot of these things are anyway happening, and you know, always, like say, one is the Malthusian world where we will end up dying, right? But the technology over a period of time always comes in. Not always, but like say, as Eric has pointed out, like say 1980s, we all are talking ozone layer, right? But with the kind of policy push, right, kind of political will and innovation, it gets solved. And I think climate change, this part, probably everybody was thinking it is not in a lifetime, as Dr. Rajiv Kumar said. But I think it's on our face, and a lot of things are happening at the right time. So yes, as well as human consumption happens, a lot of things get created. But I think at the same time, there's some set of people who are really working on it. And idea of this whole fair forum and climate angel is to do that, channelize capital towards solutions which can solve us and save us while making money. So that's my comment here.
Thank you very much. It was an awesome session, and with that we'd like to close out the evening, and a huge thanks to all of you for coming up. I think for a lot of us it was our first event out, and I'm glad to be part of it. A huge thanks to Satya sir for helping us with all of this, helping Climate Angels Fund launch also. I think he leads from the front, and is very passionate, gets a group together, and gets conversations. It's very engaging and very solution oriented conversations, and then we can follow up on that path further. So huge thank you, Satya sir, for helping us out. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you. Let's proceed outside for drinks and dinner.